So in this session, we'll take up the peroxisomes. So we usually study the peroxisome as a microorganelle or a microbody, the healthy. So microbody is a small structure which is not very complex structurally. So when you compare peroxisome with the mitochondria or chloroplast or probably endoplasmic reticulum, Golgi complex, structurally the peroxisome is not as complex as the mitochondria or chloroplast or endoplasmic reticulum or any other organelle actually. This is definitely an organelle, but it is an microorganelle or it is a microbody because it is very simple structurally. Of course, when it comes functional aspect, functional it is very important. So we'll see what are the functions of the peroxisome. You'll understand how important this microbody is actually. Okay, but because of its structural simplification, we call this as a microbody or a microorganelle. So peroxisome, they were first studied by or they were first identified by or they were first observed by a scientist named as Johannes Rodin. This was first observed by a scientist named as Johannes Rodin. However, its function as an organelle. So this microbody was identified as an organelle because of its functional aspect by a scientist named as a Christian D. Duff. So Christian D. Duff is a scientist who have actually studied the so we have previously seen Christian D. Duff. Lysosomes. Nennetane agide, right? So lysosomes were also studied by Christian D. Duff. The same person has also identified the peroxisome as an organelle. Before, peroxisome was considered only as a microbody. It was not given the status of the organelle. Later on, after studying its functional aspect by Christian D. Duff, he identified it as an organelle. Okay, so Christian D. Duff. So he studied it as an organelle. He studied it as an organelle on the basis of its function. On the basis of its function. So if you see the structure of the peroxisome, as we have said, it is very simple structurally, right? So it has a single membrane. We usually call it as a single limiting membrane anta helteve. So limiting membrane antandre, this will not stretch out. Okay, the organelle will not stretch. So we call it as an single limiting membrane. It has an single limiting membrane which is usually made up of lipids and proteins. Lipids and proteins. Then inner to the membrane, there is usually granular matrix. There is usually granular matrix. Granular matrix means crystal matrix, right? Granular matrix is kind of a crystal matrix. So there is granular matrix, and this granular matrix majorly consists of certain fibrils. It consists of fibrils or fibrils, however you pronounce it. So this presence of these fibrils will make the matrix granular. Okay, the texture is granular because of the presence of the fibrils. Along with the fibrils, there are certain important enzymes present in the matrix. Okay, matrix is granular which consists majorly of certain fibrils and some important enzymes are present. Okay. It is been known that around 60 enzymes, around 60 type of enzymes are present in the peroxisomes. Lysosomes we had studied as an organelle and we had seen that it had 50 types of enzymes. Now this is a small microbody, right? This is a small microbody which is there, which is containing 60 types of enzymes, means 10 more than the lysosome. So definitely they should have more functional aspects, isn't it? Then if you see the cell, okay, peroxisome will be present in two types, or you can see the presence of the peroxisomes in the two formats, I can say. One is we call it as peroxisome reticulum. Peroxisome reticulum. In some cells, okay, in some cells, we see many number of peroxisomes which are present in a form of a network like this. All these are small peroxisomes only. Like this, okay. You see the presence of peroxisomes in the form of a network like this. If they are present in the form of a network, we call them as a peroxisome reticulum, okay. So here what do we see? Here we see the network of peroxisomes. We see the network of the peroxisomes. On the other hand, we can see single peroxisome also. We can see single peroxisome also, and if it is present singly, we call it as micro peroxisome. It means that if this is a cell, somewhere we just have one single peroxisome. Okay, so if it is present singly, we call it as the microperoxisome. If many peroxisomes are present, in that case, those peroxisomes will be arranged in a form of a network. Why they are arranged in the form of a network is to usually cover the complete space of the cell. Okay, to cover the complete space of a cell. If the cells are really bigger, so we see the peroxisomes only in the eukaryotes. We don't see the peroxisomes in the prokaryotes. Okay. So these are present only in the eukaryotes. So if there are bigger cells, in that case what happens? To cover the complete cellular space, these many peroxisomes will usually arrange themselves in a form of a network. Okay. So they are present only in eukaryotes. They are present only in the eukaryotes. Now coming to the functions. The first function here is the breakdown of hydrogen peroxide. The first function or the most important function which is happening in the peroxisome. Why the peroxisome was given the status of the organelle from a microbody to organelle? Yake antandre, it is because of this one particular reason, that is breakdown of hydrogen peroxide. So for the breakdown of hydrogen peroxide, what enzyme is required? Which enzyme will break down the hydrogen peroxide? This is the equation. H2O2 is being broken down into H2O plus 2H balance aita H2O, sorry, 2O2 2H2, I guess. Yes, 2H2O2. Balanced. So this is catalyzed by which enzyme? Hmm? Catalase. Catalase enzyme ಓದಿದ್ದೀರಾ ತಾನೇ ನೀವು? Yeah. So catalase is the enzyme which breaks down the hydrogen peroxide into water and the oxygen. And this breakdown is very important in the body because very often, hydrogen peroxide will keep on forming in our body. And this hydrogen peroxide is an reactive oxygen species. It is an reactive oxygen species, which means that it is kind of harmful molecule to the body. So it has to be removed. So compulsory ಇದನ್ನ remove ಮಾಡಬೇಕು. So remove ಮಾಡಬೇಕು ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ hydrogen peroxide breakdown ಆಗಬೇಕು. And this breakdown is done by the catalase. And where is this catalase present? Catalase is present in the peroxisomes. Catalase are formed or present in the peroxisomes. The first function of the catalase is the oxidation of the hydrogen peroxide or the breakdown of the hydrogen peroxide. So the hydrogen peroxide has been broken down into water molecule and the oxygen. Why it has to be broken down? Because the hydrogen peroxide is an reactive oxygen species. Okay, this is the first function. Then coming to the second function, biosynthesis of lipids. Biosynthesis of lipids. There's one particular type of phospholipid. Okay, there is one particular type of phospholipid which is required to form the myelin sheath around the neurons, right? If you remember the structure of the neurons have a myelin sheath around it. Yes, neurons sutta myelin sheath irutte alva. That myelin sheath is made up of a major component called as a phospholipid, and that particular type of the phospholipid which is used in the formation of the myelin sheath is synthesized in the peroxisomes. Okay, so biosynthesis of the lipids. So this is particularly a phospholipid for the So in this session, we'll take up the ribosomes. So these are small spheroidal organelles, which are present in both prokaryotes and eukaryotes. Present in both prokaryotes and eukaryotes. Now, in case of the prokaryotes, we usually see the ribosomes as free ribosomes. We see them as free ribosomes. Whereas in case of eukaryotes, we see the ribosomes in both ways. That is, we see them as free ribosomes also, and endoplasmic reticulum associated ribosomes. Endoplasmic reticulum associated ribosomes. Then, in case of prokaryotes, In case of prokaryotes, the ribosome which is present is usually the 70S type of ribosomes. It is 70S types of ribosome. In case of eukaryotes, we usually have 80S type of ribosomes. Apart from the cells, we also see the ribosomes in one other place, and that is several cell organelles. So which cell organelle will have the ribosomes? Which cell organelle will have the ribosomes? Mitochondria and the chloroplast. Mitochondria and chloroplast also has ribosomes. Also has ribosomes. What type of ribosomes? So they are free ribosomes. They are free ribosomes. So what is the Swedberg coefficient of this ribosome? Which type of ribosome? 70S or 80S? 70S. ಮೈಟೊಕಾಂಡ್ರಿಯಾ ಮತ್ತು ಕ್ಲೋರೋಪ್ಲಾಸ್ಟ್ ಪ್ರೊಕ್ಯಾರಿಯೋಟ್ಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಇರುತ್ತೆ, ಯುಕ್ಯಾರಿಯೋಟ್ಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. ಮೈಟೊಕಾಂಡ್ರಿಯಾ ಕ್ಲೋರೋಪ್ಲಾಸ್ಟ್ ಎಲ್ಲಿರುತ್ತೆ? ಯುಕ್ಯಾರಿಯೋಟ್ಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಇರುತ್ತೆ, ಪ್ರೊಕ್ಯಾರಿಯೋಟ್ಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಇರುತ್ತೆ? ಯುಕ್ಯಾರಿಯೋಟ್ಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. ಮತ್ತೆ ಯುಕ್ಯಾರಿಯೋಟ್ಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ವಿಚ್ ಟೈಪ್ ಆಫ್ ರೈಬೋಸೋಮ್ ವಿಲ್ ಬಿ ಪ್ರೆಸೆಂಟ್? ಯುಕ್ಯಾರಿಯೋಟ್ಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ 80S. ಮತ್ತೆ ಮೈಟೊಕಾಂಡ್ರಿಯಾ ಕ್ಲೋರೋಪ್ಲಾಸ್ಟ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಯಾವ್ದಿರುತ್ತೆ? Sure? Yes. 70S type of ribosomes are present in the mitochondria and the chloroplast. So now if you see the structure of the mitochondria, structure of the ribosomes are made up of two subunits. So they have two subunits. One is a small subunit, a smaller subunit. So this smaller subunit, it usually attaches to the, smaller subunit attaches to the mRNA and larger subunit. The smaller subunit, it usually attaches to the mRNA and the larger subunit. When it comes to the larger subunit, it attaches to tRNA. It attaches to tRNA, amino acids and smaller subunit. So now, if you see the structures here, let us first speak about the prokaryotes. So we have one smaller subunit and one larger subunit, right? The smaller subunit and the larger subunit and the smaller subunit. So now if you split this 70S into smaller and larger subunit, what are the counts? 50S and 30S. 50S and 30S. So this is in case of the prokaryotes. If you see it in case of the eukaryotes, smaller subunit, larger subunit. Okay. So this is 60S and 40S. 60S and 40S. So now, what exactly is this 50S and 30S? Is it a count of the 70S? 60S and 40S, is it a count of 80S? Then what is it? What does S stand for? Sorry? Swedberg. S stands for Swedberg unit. And what is this Swedberg unit speaking about? What does the Swedberg unit speaks about? Sorry? The Swedberg unit speaks about sedimentation coefficient. Sedimentation coefficient. So what is the sedimentation coefficient? So sedimentation coefficient is when you uh, open a cell, okay, when you open a cell and separate all the parts of the cell and you are undergoing centrifuge. You take up the centrifuge to separate a particular part. Now, centrifuge will basically run on the density coefficient, right? So, ಅಲ್ಲೇನಾಗತ್ತೆ ಇಷ್ಟು rotations ಅಂತ ನಾವು rotate ಮಾಡಿದಾಗ RPM, so these many rotations per minute ಅಂತ ನಾವು ಅದನ್ನ rotate ಮಾಡಿದಾಗ a particular molecule or a particular organelle on the basis of its density will go and settle, will go and get sedimented. Sedimentation coefficient is at how many rotations per minute that particular organelle will go and settle at the bottom during the centrifugation. That is called as the sedimentation coefficient. You got it? ಒಂದು ಬ್ಯಾರಲ್ ತಗೊಂಡಿರ್ತೀವಿ, ಒಂದು ಬ್ಯಾರಲ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ನಾವು ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಮಣ್ಣು ಹಾಕ್ತಿವಿ, ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಕಲ್ಲು ಹಾಕ್ತಿವಿ, ಒಂದು ರಟ್ ಹಾಕ್ತಿವಿ, ಒಂದೆರಡು ಪೇಪರ್ ಹಾಕ್ತಿವಿ, 4 ಹಾಕಿ ತಿರುಗಿಸೋಣ. ತಿರುಗಿಸಿದಾಗ ಓಕೆ, ತಿರುಗಿಸಿದಾಗ ಒಂದ್ 2 ಅಥವಾ 3 ಸರ್ತಿ ತಿರುಗಿಸ್ಬಿಟ್ರೆ ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಹೋಗಿ ಏನ್ ಸೆಟ್ಲ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ ಕೆಳಗಡೆಗೆ? ಕಲ್ಲು, ಮಣ್ಣು, ರಟ್ಟು, ಪೇಪರ್. ಯಾವ್ದು ಸೆಟ್ಲ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ? ಒಂದ್ 3 ಅಥವಾ ಒಂದ್ 5 ಸತಿ ಹಿಂಗ್ ತಿರುಗಿಸಿ ಬಿಟ್ಬಿಟ್ವಪ್ಪ ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಹೋಗಿ ಸೆಟ್ಲ್ ಆಗೋದು ಯಾವ್ದು? ಕಲ್ಲು, ರೈಟ್? The stone gets settled first. So at 5 rotations per minute the stone gets settled first ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ the 5 is the sedimentation coefficient of the kallu. You got it? So next, ಅದಾದ್ಮೇಲೆ ಇನ್ನೊಂದು 10 ಸರ್ತಿ ತಿರುಗಿಸಿದಾಗ ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ? ತಿರುಗಿಸಿ ಕೈ ಬಿಟ್ವಪ್ಪ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ? ಕಂಪ್ಲೀಟ್ ಮಣ್ಣು ಸೆಟಲ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ ಅಲ್ವಾ? ಸೆಟಲ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ ಅಂದ್ರೆ 5 plus 10 is 15 is the sedimentation coefficient of ಮಣ್ಣು, right? So next, it goes on, so it increases. So number of the as in the density is less, okay, as in the density is less, the sedimentation coefficient will be more, alva? So this is the Swedberg unit. The Swedberg unit alli so 50 S anta kottidare. S will be standing for one particular numerical, okay, ಒಂದು numerical ಇರುತ್ತೆ. So 50S, 60S, 40S, 30S ಅಂದ್ರೆ 30 into so and so, 50 into so and so standards ಇರುತ್ತೆ. ಆ standards ಪ್ರಕಾರ usually count ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂತಾರೆ. Okay, clear? Now, what does the ribosome consist of? What does a ribosome consist of? A ribosome, it majorly consists of RNA plus protein, right? A ribosome majorly consists of RNA and the protein. So this RNA part of the ribosome, okay, RNA part of the ribosome will sometime act as the enzyme. The RNA part of the ribosome will sometime start acting like an enzyme during the peptide bond formation in the translation process. During the peptide bond formation in the translation process, this RNA part of the ribosome will start acting as a enzyme, and hence when it is acting like an enzyme, the ribosomes are also called as ribozymes. They are also called as ribozymes. So acting as a ribozyme is the first function of the ribosome. The second function of the ribosome is protein synthesis. This is one common function which everyone knows, right? Yes, protein synthesis, ribozymes. Apart from this, it also catalyzes the peptide bond formation. It catalyzes the peptide bond formation. And remember one more name. During the translation process, many ribosomes will come into one single line and form a chain of ribosomes. So such chain of ribosomes are called as polysomes. Okay, such chain of ribosomes are called as the polysomes. This is happening during the translation process. Okay, during the translation process, what happens? Many ribosomes will come and they bind to the mRNA molecule, right? So that structure we call it as the polysomes. Okay, clear with this? Huh? And one last thing you should remember here. Ribosome recycling. Okay. So after the translation process, the major function is protein synthesis. Okay. After the protein synthesis formation, both the subunits will detach. Okay. Both the subunits will detach and they go and get recycled for the next set of the translation process. Only during the translation, they go and bind. The subunits will bind to each other. Larger subunit and smaller subunit will bind to each other only during the protein synthesis. Otherwise, these subunits will never be in a bound form. Okay. So, once they get binded, it means that the translation has begun. Okay. So, translation process. After the translation process, they again open up and go back, get recycled and come for the next set of the translation process. Okay, clear? This is all about the ribosomes. Okay.